The papers were on the dining table, neatly stacked, tab-marked, waiting. Emma Laurent stared at her name typed in clean black ink at the bottom of the page. 10 years of marriage reduced to a line waiting for a signature. Across from her, Daniel Laurent stood by the window of the penthouse, city lights reflecting off the glass behind him. White, 35, tall, broad-shouldered. The same man who once kissed her in a rainstorm outside their first apartment. The same man she hadn't touched in 6 months. "We don't have to do this tonight," he said quietly. "We've been not doing this for a year," she replied. Her voice wasn't angry anymore. Anger had burned out months ago. What remained was exhaustion. The marriage hadn't exploded. It had eroded. Late nights, missed dinners, silence filling spaces that used to hold laughter. Daniel's company had grown rapidly. Investors, acquisitions, endless travel. Emma's career in interior design had taken off too. They weren't failing. They were succeeding. Separately. Lawyers said once we sign, there's a 30-day processing period, Daniel said. She nodded. Clinical. Professional. Like they were negotiating a contract instead of dismantling a life. "When do we stop fighting for this?" he asked suddenly. Emma's jaw tightened. "I fought," she said. "You were busy. That's not fair." Neither was being alone in a marriage. Silence. Heavy. Familiar. Daniel walked toward the table. He didn't sit. He stood close enough that she could feel his presence. Still overwhelming. Still magnetic. That was the worst part. The attraction never left. The resentment just grew louder. "Do you remember our honeymoon?" he asked. She exhaled sharply. "That's manipulative. Answer the question." "Yes," she said. "I remember. The ocean. The small villa. The way he used to look at her like she was the only thing in the room. You used to touch me like I mattered," she added quietly. His expression shifted. "I still do." "You don't." "I do." He stepped closer. Too close. The scent of his cologne, subtle, familiar, stirred something in her chest she had tried to bury. "You haven't looked at me in months," she whispered. "I look at you every day. Not like you used to." Her voice cracked slightly. Not with weakness. With frustration. "You stopped letting me in," he said. "You stopped being present. I was building something for us. And I was losing you while you did." The truth sat between them. Unavoidable. Neither of them cheated. Neither of them betrayed. They simply drifted until the space felt permanent. Emma reached for the pen. Her hand trembled slightly. Not from doubt. From grief. Daniel's hand covered hers before the pen touched paper. Warm. Firm. Familiar. The contact sent a sharp pulse through her. 6 months of distance shattered in 1 second. "Don't," he said quietly. Her breath hitched. "You don't get to touch me like that if you're ready to walk away." "I'm not ready." "Then why are we here?" "Because I don't know how to fix this." His honesty unsettled her. Daniel Laurent never admitted uncertainty. He controlled outcomes. He dominated negotiations. But this was different. She pulled her hand back. Slowly. "If we stay married like this," she said, "we'll hate each other." "I don't hate you." "Not yet." A storm rolled in outside, thunder vibrating faintly through the glass. The city lights flickered against the dark clouds. The atmosphere inside the penthouse shifted with it. Charged. Electric. "You think signing that will fix the resentment?" he asked. "No." "Then what will?" She didn't answer. Because she didn't know. He stepped closer again. Deliberate this time. Her back hit the edge of the table. The papers brushed against her hip. "You think I don't want you?" he asked softly. Her pulse spiked. "This isn't about want." "It is," he said. "It always has been." His hand moved to her waist. Not forceful. Not aggressive. Just there. The intimacy felt almost violent after months of nothing. "You stopped reaching for me," she whispered. "I was waiting for you to reach back." "I did. Not like this." His fingers tightened slightly at her waist. Her breath faltered. The proximity erased logic. Erased pride. Erased months of cold distance. "We're about to sign divorce papers," she reminded him. "And yet," he murmured, lowering his voice, "your heart's racing." Damn him. He was right. Thunder cracked louder this time. Rain streaked the windows. The world outside blurred. Inside, everything sharpened. "You don't get to decide you want me just because you're losing me," she said, though her voice lacked conviction. "I've always wanted you. You didn't show it. I'm showing it now." His hand slid from her waist to her lower back, drawing her closer. Not enough to claim. Enough to remind. The tension between them wasn't new. It was dormant, buried under schedules and pride. Now it surged violently to the surface. She should step away. She should grab the pen. She should protect her dignity. Instead, her hands gripped his shirt. Not hard, but intentional. His eyes darkened, not with anger, with something rawer. Something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in months. "Tell me you don't want this," he said quietly. She opened her mouth, closed it, because lying now would be worse than signing. "I don't want this," she admitted. That was enough. His mouth captured hers. Not gentle, not desperate, but certain. A kiss that tasted like unfinished arguments and unslept nights. A kiss that shattered the careful distance they had built. Her body reacted before her mind could protest. Months of restraint ignited instantly. Her fingers tightened in his shirt. His hand slid firmly against her back, pulling her closer. The papers slipped from the table, scattered across the floor, ignored. When he broke the kiss, their foreheads rested together, breathing uneven. He didn't apologize. She didn't pull away. "This doesn't fix anything," she whispered. "No," he agreed. "But it reminds us what we're walking away from." The storm raged outside. Inside, the space between divorce and desire collapsed completely, and neither of them knew yet. That one night would force them to confront whether this was just passion, or the last chance to rebuild everything. The kiss should have ended there. It didn't. Emma felt the weight of the last 6 months dissolve into something hotter, sharper. Not forgiveness. Not resolution. Recognition. Daniel's hands didn't roam recklessly. They stayed deliberate, one firm at her lower back, the other braced beside her on the table as if he were holding himself in check. That restraint undid her more than desperation ever could. "This is dangerous," she whispered against his mouth. "I know. We're not fixed. I know. And you still want me." "Yes." The certainty in his voice made her pulse spike again. Emma pulled back just enough to look at him. His expression wasn't triumphant. It wasn't manipulative. It was conflicted, hungry, afraid. "You think one night will undo a year of neglect?" she asked quietly. "No," he said. "But I think walking away without remembering why we fought to begin with is cowardly." That hit, because neither of them had been cowards in business. Only in love. Thunder cracked again, closer this time. The lights flickered briefly. Emma laughed softly, breathless. "Of course there's a storm. Maybe we needed one," Daniel murmured. He kissed her again, slower now. Less argument. More familiarity. The kind of kiss built from history. From knowing exactly how she responded when his thumb traced lightly along her jaw. From knowing the way her breathing changed when he deepened it just slightly. Her hand slid up his chest. The fabric of his shirt warm beneath her palms. "You stopped touching me," she whispered. "I was afraid you'd pull away. I was waiting for you to try. I didn't want to force something that felt fragile." Emma shook her head. It didn't feel fragile. It felt abandoned. The word landed heavy. He absorbed it without defense. "I thought giving you space was respect," he said quietly. It felt like distance. "I didn't know how to compete with your independence." She blinked. "What? You don't need me," he said, voice low. And somewhere along the line, I mistook that for irrelevance. That confession stunned her more than the kiss had. "I chose you," she said. "I know. No. You need to hear it. I chose you even when I didn't need to." The storm outside raged harder, but inside the air shifted, less volatile, more honest. They moved toward the couch, almost unconsciously. Not rushed. Not frantic. Just closer. Emma straddled the line between anger and longing, and for the first time in months, she didn't suppress either. Daniel cupped her face, slower this time. Intentional. "Tell me what you need," he said. Not a command. A request. "I need to matter," she whispered. "You do. Not as a wife on paper. Not as part of a portfolio. As a partner." His forehead pressed to hers. "You've always been my equal." "Then act like it." Silence followed. Then he nodded once. "Okay." They didn't rush into bed. That would have been too easy. Too shallow. Instead, they talked. Still close. Still touching. But talking. "I hated that you never came to the studio opening," she admitted. "I was in London." "I know. But you didn't even call before the speech." He closed his eyes briefly. "I was in a board meeting that ran long." "I didn't need you physically there," she said softly. "I needed to know you wanted to be." "I did," he replied. "I just assumed you knew. I'm not psychic. And I'm not expressive," he said dryly. "You used to be. That was before I learned vulnerability could be used against me." She studied him carefully. "In business." "Yes. And you applied that to us." "Yes." The honesty was disarming. Emma traced her fingers lightly along his collarbone. Marriage isn't a hostile takeover. I'm starting to realize that. The tension between them shifted from explosive to intimate. Desire remained, thick, undeniable, but it no longer felt like a weapon. It felt like connection. When he finally pulled her into his lap, it wasn't to dominate. It was to hold. She felt the steady rhythm of his heartbeat under her palm. Familiar. Grounding. I don't want to sign those papers, he said quietly. Neither do I, she admitted. But I don't want to go back to how we were. We won't. How can you be sure? Because now I know what losing you feels like. She looked at him carefully. You only realized when it was almost gone. Yes. And that scares me. It should. He didn't flinch from it. The rain began to soften outside. The storm moving on. Inside, something steadier took its place. We need rules, she said. He raised an eyebrow. Negotiation? Partnership, she corrected. He almost smiled. All right. You show up, she said firmly. Even if it's inconvenient. I will. You communicate before you disappear into work. I will. And you don't treat me like I'm fragile. He studied her. I never thought you were fragile. You treated the marriage like it was. He nodded slowly. Then I won't. And you? He asked gently. I don't shut down when I feel neglected, she replied. I don't withdraw and wait for you to notice. He brushed his thumb lightly over her cheek. Deal. The divorce papers remained scattered across the floor. Neither of them looked at them. When they finally moved toward the bedroom, it wasn't reckless. It wasn't desperation. It was conscious, deliberate, a choice. The intimacy that followed wasn't just physical. It was rediscovery. Slow touches, pauses, moments where they looked at each other like they were reacquainting themselves with something precious. At one point, she laughed softly against his shoulder. What? He murmured. We almost threw this away. Yes. For pride. Yes. And fear. He nodded. Yes. The night didn't erase the past year. It didn't magically repair cracks. But it did something more important. It reminded them that the foundation still existed. Buried. Not broken. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the curtains. The storm gone. The air quiet. Emma woke first. Daniel's arm draped securely around her waist. Not possessive. Protective. She slipped carefully from the bed and walked back to the dining table. The papers still lay scattered. Ink untouched. Daniel appeared in the doorway moments later. Shirt unbuttoned. Hair messy. Less executive. More husband. She picked up the papers. Held them for a moment. Then calmly tore them in half. Daniel didn't cheer. Didn't smile smugly. He simply exhaled. Relief visible. This isn't a reset button, she said firmly. I know. It's a restart with terms. I accept. She stepped toward him. Then prove it. He wrapped his arms around her slowly. I will. They weren't fixed. Not perfectly. But they were fighting again. For each other. They were one signature away from divorce. Instead, they chose to sign something far more difficult. Effort. Presence. Desire that wasn't an escape, but a reminder. And this time, they didn't let it slip quietly into silence.